And here we are, live, finally. And Google's decided to throw some whole new gremlins at us this week, which has been fun.
Well, I'm getting his Ib up on again.
You're getting what? Ah, right. Okay. Right. Is mine working or not?
I can hear you, sir.
Well, there we go. We're okay. Sorry, Lee. Right. While we fix these small bugs, let me introduce my guest, David Wells. Now, David is somebody that I've known for quite a while and get on with. And when I heard that he was having a particular issue with trying to kind of, well, how would you describe it, David? Are you sort of a bit directionless, or what is it?
I can't figure out how to be Grizwald Grim on the internet for money, and I'd really like to.
That, yeah. Well, there's several ways, and we'll kind of dig into all of those, but we'll sort of start at the start. And, well, first of all, introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your journey to here. How did you get to be the Grizwald Grim that everyone knows?
I was Grizwald Grim before the Google Plus came along. It was the gaming name I used for my other internet excursions, and I just kept it. When G Plus came along, I recently dropped it because I don't know, it wasn't working, I guess, is the main reason, and I thought maybe being a legal name would be more conducive. I was working as a transcriptionist for a doctor, and this was I was working for a hospital as a transcriptionist, and then I helped them install the voice recognition software that rendered me and about 70 other people irrelevant. And then I got a gig at a clinic doing some transcription work for people who were still using audio cassette recorders. And then I went to school to be a paralegal for a while because I saw the days were numbered as the transcriptionist thing. And then 2012 came along, and I was like, I just quit and went. I had met my father for the first time the year before that, and so I went down to Vegas thinking that where he lived, to spend some time with him and see if I could get on as a paralegal down there, and that didn't work out. So I tried being Grizwald Grim on the internet for a while, and I had a sponsor, a mysterious benefactor, for a while. So yes, exactly, Chris. But the sponsor dried up, and then I wrecked my car, and I don't know, it just went from bad to worse. So now I'm trying to figure out if I should steer a different direction or if I take one more shot at making it work.
Yeah. Okay. So, transcriptionist. So reinforces what we already know, that you can write. You also write. Well, how long have you been writing creatively? Was that part of the games, or was that something that goes right back to childhood? Where did that start?
Yeah, I'd say childhood. I remember in the 4th grade that we had an assignment that was supposed to be 2 pages, and I gave them 10. And I fell out of love with the notion of writing fiction about the same time that I jumped off the plank as far as the career goes, because I don't think we have time for it anymore. The world is changing so fast that, I don't know, it just seems that talking about actual important issues is more important than telling people stories. And so I've had a hard time pushing myself back toward fiction because of that.
Do you know what? I'm going to have to disagree with that. I think that actually stories are more important than ever, because every story that's successful has an element of truth to it. Storytelling is a way of telling ourselves truths that are hard to hear and making things that are, you know, perhaps not as easily accepted in plain ordinary life terms. When you storify it, when you give it some story, suddenly it becomes a lot more acceptable. And we're seeing this in marketing, where it's maybe not a good thing, but you know, phrasing it in a story makes it more palatable, makes it more understandable, makes us able to take it away more easily. But I also think that fiction generally is not just life-changing, but world-changing. You know, I don't think the world would be what it is today without the book 1984 by George Orwell. It gave us ways of phrasing problems that we foresaw, and still can act as a cautionary note today. Or 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, all of these kind of, yeah, I know there was a film, but there wouldn't have been a film without the book. So actually, I think storytelling is perhaps more important than ever today, because there's certainly more avenues.
That's valid. I guess the argument I've had in my head is like, do I really have to wrap this in fiction? Can't we just talk about it, guys? But it's something I should consider.
That too. What I'd point out is that documentary makers, of course, write reality, a version of reality for sure, but they still have to script it. They still have to research and decide what's going to be in that story, and then tell the story visually. Of course, biographers dig up other people's stories, and they're telling fact and story at the same time. So there certainly are avenues of doing both within writing.
One of the fantasies over the last 2 years I had while I was living it was that I was living a story rather than writing it, and that I could get people to follow along with me as I went through it, through my posts and stuff. But we don't really have the mechanics to cash in on that. Like everyone's telling their own story, and so it's not something anybody's willing to pay for because there's just so many available out there for free. So, I mean, that was the fantasy that I had to let go, I think. But.
Okay, let me rephrase that again. Have you ever heard of these people called the Kardashians? If you believe that that's their real life and not, you know, living a story, then you're a much kinder person than I am. You know, I think that they absolutely frame everything they do in how it's going to look. And, you know, it's professional storytelling, living a story for money, because, frankly, I don't think half of them can write.
Yeah, there's that, but who would want to be them? Okay, I'm sure there's people who would want to be. I'm not one of those people. I don't want to lie. And I think that's part of the push me away from fiction too. Is I want to be as real as I can be under a pseudonym.
See how you're kind of limiting your options.
I am.
The only story that people are going to want to see in real time is a false story. Because, do you know what? I can watch real life in my time. I've got mine. What I want is to see the accelerated thing, and you know, maybe head off where I'm heading wrong. So you've either got to tell a story that's shrunk down, i.e., it's not in real time and it's false because it's not lived right now, or you've got to live a story. But even so, you've got to then go out and live an exciting story. You've got to be Bear Grylls. You've got to be a stuntman. You've got to be the Kardashians. You've got to be doing something that others want to watch.
True.
I don't think you can really have a reality show without that. It's possible if you put people in odd enough situations. Over here, Gogglebox is really, really popular, which is people watching telly. But instead of seeing what's on telly, you're seeing their reactions and them talking about it and reacting to it. And it's actually amazingly good. The silly conversations people have about television actually makes for great television.
Oh dear. I haven't ever heard of it, but I'm so believable, so I'm not surprised.
Okay, so books are only one form of storytelling, and we already mentioned documentaries and therefore filmmaking as another form of television, of storytelling. But there's another one as well that you've already got a passionate interest in. Games. Every game is based on story. There's a whole universe, a whole milieu going on that you have to work with and keep consistent and make work. So it could be that there's a game writer in you. Is that something you've ever considered or explored at all?
I did get an associate's in computer science, and then I convinced myself that all those jobs were going to India, and got out of it. But yeah, that's definitely an option worth for looking into further.
One of the things is that there are people out there who can code who can't tell stories. There's a lot of them. A lot of the really, really great computer guys tend to have that very mathematical brain that isn't so great on the social side, isn't so great on the personality understandings, and therefore, writes terrible games. So it could be that what you've got there is a collaboration, that what you need to do is, instead of just understand enough of the process to be able to tell a programmer what you need to achieve, and be able to frame your stuff in stuff that they can bring to life.
I was hoping when the whole Google Plus thing broke that it would be easier to find people to collaborate with, and I've struggled a little bit with that. That everyone seems to be either trying their own thing or so wrapped up in what they already have going on that they don't have time to really make something happen. And so any pointers in that direction would be appreciated.
Well, I wouldn't say collaboration itself is difficult. That's usually pretty easy. But you've got to have one of two things. You've either got to have done all the work for them, i.e. you've provided the framework, you've provided the show that they can just turn up and be on, and be a part of, or you need to be able to share the credit equally and for them to feel absolutely a part of it. So it's when you kind of get there and it's vague and they don't know what they own and they don't know how much credit they're getting, and hang on, if I'm doing all the work, what do I need you for? That's when it falls apart. So you've got to be very clear up front about what you're providing and what everyone's expectations are to be. Now, I don't know if that's affected any of it, but I would suggest that probably where it's gone wrong is in framing what they get from it. Welcome back, Lee.
Afternoon. Can you hear me? Is all right?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. I've actually gotten the third machine now. Dear Santa, please get me some bloody internet access that actually works. Thank you.
Okay, so you have a blog.
Yeah.
What's been going on with the blog? What is what's it doing for you? I mean, I'm getting the idea it was probably partly experimental, but where did you hope it was going to go?
I used to think that, maybe if I got enough viewers, I could throw some ads up or something, but it was never really. I never really had much faith in the blogging. By the time I got into it, it kind of felt like that ship had already sailed. And so most of the content I would have previously blogged, I just tossed out onto social networking, and the returns on that what they are. But, I mean, the engagement, I got more engagement than I had on the blog, and so that was what I was getting out of it. But it doesn't really lead anywhere, as I've discovered.
I wouldn't say that, blogging for money, the ship has sailed at all. It can still be done. However, don't expect instant results. You're looking at 2 years to build up a good audience a lot of the time, unless you've already got an email list and things like that that you can use to seed it, or can ride off of an existing following on social media, etc., etc. But you really need a good few thousand people as a seed list to shortcut the 2-year process. Otherwise it's a 2-year process. But also, when you're doing this for money, when you're going, right, I'm going to be a professional blogger, then right up front you have to think of, where's the money coming from? Who is paying me to be a blogger? So the content direction, the way the audience is built is all to attract the right advertisers in the first place, i.e. the ones with money. So you need to think of how your blog will appeal to people who are looking for advertising. So when we had Maggie and Zeta on the show, food, wine, blogging, everyone knows exactly what you're doing there. It's a clearly defined audience. She has enough of an audience in numbers to be attractive, but also the demographic, the tie-in is pretty obvious. There's all kinds of kitchenware, there's all kinds of foods, there's all kinds of drinks that are already spending money on advertising, and therefore being able to reach an already engaged audience, and we're at the right price is going to appeal to them. So it is, you create the blog to attract the right audience, to attract the right advertisers.
I agree with that. And, however, I lean anti-establishment, and it's hard for me to imagine who would want to advertise on anti-establishment stuff. So that's part of why I just let it lie. And I mean, I'll kick something out every once in a while.
But anti-establishment, oh yeah, there's tons of them. The first thing is that you could create a blog all about pranking, which attracts the young anti-establishment crowd, but you can give some more interesting stuff. There are magazines out there that are for them. There are, pranking kits, there are costumes, there are all kinds of things that people will need to be able to pull these pranks off. Guess what? Joke shops are still big money. So actually, yeah, there is a way of doing that. Then, of course, there's the thing of being able to sell the little spy cameras so that they can, go and do those kind of things. The recording kits generally, there is a market, but you've always got to think ahead to who's got the money, because obviously it isn't usually the anti-establishment people, unless you go for the sort of apocalyptic crowd and sell them everything they need to build their own bunker. And, oh, by the way, you can buy this great assault gun for only $20,000 right now. It's on special.
Yeah. I guess it's just, at some level, I'm going to have to sell out. And I don't know to whom I'd be comfortable selling out. Like taking advantage of people's fear is the bunker thing. I don't know. I don't want to compromise my morality in that direction, I don't think.
You think they're wrong to have a bunker? I think we should all get one. Not under my lawn. So, there are ways of marketing anything. There's one thing you need to change first, is your attitude yourself. Money is independence. Money is anti-establishment. Because there isn't anybody with enough money that isn't doing that to government. And the tax man and everyone else, they can. You kind of need to sometimes say, well, hang on. Isn't the ultimate in anti-establishment things to succeed. A different way to the way that everyone expects, and to show everyone, you know, that way. Isn't that the ultimate in anti-establishment? Not to be nobody, but look at how Bill Gates and Steve Jobs have changed the world's opinion of geeks.
Wow. Kind of saw that one coming, but I take your point.
But it could be that, you know, where you need to start is really at home with, well, hang on, what's right, or am I just, you know, every time I'm coming up with an idea, am I sabotaging it myself, and if so, why? What will make you happy?
One of my goals, I guess, was to I wanted to work on a pot farm, and to the extent that, you know, kind of like a commune with internet, where people could come, like the people I met online could come and give speaking, like host their little speaking gigs, but you know, that's several $1 million probably before I could build such a thing.
Yep. And why couldn't they do it? What are you bringing to the equation that they couldn't?
The willingness to up and move there to help run it and help be a part of it. I mean, I don't necessarily want to be in charge of it, but to my knowledge, it doesn't exist, so I can't join one. But that's when I think of happiness. That's where I get, you know, just working in the dirt during the day and you know, being online and meeting people and bringing people together from across the globe. So that's kind of my idea of happiness.
Okay. Have you ever done any farming?
No, but I'm sure I could learn.
Do you know what? I'd say ping John Moore and ask him if he'll have you as a free worker for a couple of weeks. Give the lifestyle a try.
Yeah.
You know, or somebody else that's got a farm. There's a few farmers on G+. Give them a ping. Give them a try. You might find it isn't what you quite hoped it was, and it would be good to kind of rule that out. And okay, yeah, that was a city dweller's idea of what farming was going to be like, and this really isn't for me.
See, that would be great. I would love to connect with people like that, and I don't know. That's where I struggle most, is connecting with opportunities like that. I don't know how to find the people I'm looking for. I mean, I don't need to be running something. I can be helping, so I prefer to be behind the scenes, really. And that skill set is something that's not obvious to me.
Behind the scenes is tough. Believe me, as somebody who loves to be there and you know, doing that kind of stuff, look at how much time I have to spend in front of the scenes in order to get behind the scenes of places. It's a tough gig. You know, nobody's out there looking for somebody to be behind them a lot of the time. They're looking for coordinators and people to do grunt work, but they're not looking for trusted advisors. Those kind of self-select. You've kind of got to give people good advice and fall into the role.
Yeah.
You know, we can't all have easy gigs like, you know, Lee, just turn up and, you know, mess about.
Pretend nothing works and go away, get a cup of tea. I actually really like your, David, I really like your free ideas blog. The stuff that's on there is just, some of it's just stupid, but actually could work. I'd push that even more and also get some user-generated content in there. Then you start getting people talking. Then you start getting the sponsorship money and the advertising money and things like that coming in as well. Way down the line, But
Well, how would you work that getting user-generated content angle in there?
I'd allow people to join up as a member and to submit their own ideas, like you're previously on. An entire series of television shown in a collection of previously ons to a maximum of 2 hours in length. Well, that's a totally stupid idea, but actually, you know what? It might not be a bad thing, especially seeing as people are doing marathon sessions of Lost and whatever else is on. A whole series of shows. It's kind of a big thing on Netflix at the moment. You don't watch it when it's on Monday or Friday at a specific time. You watch it over a weekend. So why not have a compressed version of it? Lost in 2 hours. I've never watched Lost. I'm just going through them all now as well. Babysitter channel. Why not? Publicly funded channel designed to give children the life skills required to end up being parents that don't use TV as a babysitter. Again, totally crazy idea, but why not? It could work.
Yeah.
Or at least to find some people willing to help you test them out and actually, record some of it, whether it's in writing or, find some people willing, go out, hammer out on social media every single day until you've got enough people to put a test together. Test it, go with it, put the whole thing together. And even if it goes wrong, analyse where it went wrong, whether sometimes, it's going to be the basic idea. Sometimes, actually, if we tried it this way, maybe it would work. Try it again. Get people involved in the crazy ideas, and you may have a following build-up of people willing to do other crazy ideas, like a commune.
How do you get people to play?
One at a time.
That's the struggle.
Show what toys you've got.
David, how did I get you to come on this show and agree to, feel naked and uncomfortable talking about your innermost self and, how? By asking.
Well, by having a show.
That too. So it could be that you first need to do a couple of things that you can test on your own, or with friends you've already got who would step up and be willing, and have other people submit ideas as well that you're willing to test for them if they'll join in. And then there's two of you doing those, and then you're building up your crowd, you're building up your test bed.
I agree. I think that we have a big potential for crowd science, or people getting together to run experiments and such as that. I just no idea how to put it together.
But again, on the free ideas blog, there's no reason why you can't get them ideas up on there and link into some kind of crowdfunding, crowdsourcing kind of channel as well. This is an idea. I'll work it out. I'll probably need this amount of money and this amount of people. Who's in?
Let me just grab a couple of comments here because I think they are absolutely valid to this discussion. First, Scott was talking about how valuable transcriptions are right now as a service, and I mean there is obviously that, but obviously that's already occurred to you as well. And
Fiverr killed that for me.
Yeah. There are a lot of people doing transcription. They're mostly using quite expensive software and then just tweaking it a bit. I use a site called People Per Hour, sometimes PPH, and you can find a lot of transcriptionists on there. They're not exceptionally cheap, but it still is. If you haven't got the software that they've got, it's going to be a difficult job for you. So yeah, pulling that one up. And Manny St. Victor, Dr. Manny in the house, says one of the best ways to be anti-establishment is to understand the establishment and explain to your tribe how to understand it. And isn't that the truth? The thing that the establishment hates most is people actually knowing what they're up to.
I can agree with that. He taught me a lot about what the establishment is. So.
And of course, Zara was pointing out, after dark, somebody might have already built up an interesting user base of people willing to test some crazy ideas sometimes, but also some of the not so crazy, and to follow other things. You know, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask. Yeah, sometimes people will say no. So what? So those are some things to test that way, but it's still going to take time to go down that way, and I would still say, you know, meantime, you're still going to have to eat, or at least you're going to want to. So it could well be that, you know, you're still going to need something in the short term, whether that's doing time stamping rather than full transcription. I can get full transcription easily. Do you know how difficult it is to find time stamping that's affordable, even though it's quite easy? I mean, transcription, you've got to play it over and over and over and over to get every word just right, because there's always one sentence you really have trouble making out, always. And it's usually one sentence every few minutes that you have to struggle like that with. You know, I've done enough to know that. Time stamping of these Hangouts and other videos, most of us are happy with, you know, if there's 10 timestamps in it, that's already half our, you know, that's made our job a lot easier. Just picking out the question segments in the Hangout is so much value, and you can do that first run through because you don't need to pick out the answer. All you're doing is picking out the questions each time. That's something that, you know, an hour's Hangout you can actually do in an hour.
Yeah, I was trying to make a go of that for a while. And I put together, you know, like 7 or 8, and I was kicking them out for free, and people were like, oh, we love them, they're great, but going from me doing it for people and showing them that I'm willing to do it and I can do it and getting them to give me money for doing it, I couldn't really bridge that, so...
Yeah, it's one of those ones, you don't give it away for free. You don't give it away for free. Yeah, because once people have had it for free, it's very difficult for them to then have the same thing they've just had for free, but this time pay for it. Give people a taste for free, you never give them the meal for free. If they've had the free meal, they're never going to want to pay for it. Because you've already said it in mind, well, I've had this before and it didn't cost anything, why am I now going to pay $20 for this? So it's one of those things. Small tastes never give away the whole thing.
I was trying the drug dealer thing, you know. First one's free. If you want some more, come back. And nobody came back, so... Yeah, see, so that's always got the extra stuff because, A, it's actually physically addictive. 2, it's kicking that whole anti-establishment crowd. You know, doing drugs can be part of a statement, and for a lot of people it is. It's almost a prop in the story they're trying to tell. So, you know, they're not actually just buying the drugs. When you're just selling the drugs, it's a different matter. Look how many people don't take medication that they probably should do and need because, well, that drug's not cool. That drug isn't anti-establishment. That one just makes me feel funny. I'm not taking that anymore. So it's one of those kind of things. Let me just quickly point out, Manny's saying, what would be a good way to give a taste of time stamping? Really easy, Manny. Do your own show and timestamp that. They can see it. They can see how well it's working on your show, but they can't have it themselves. So they're seeing the value, they're getting the taste, but they're not actually getting the timestamping themselves, and therefore they never have that thing of, well, I've had this already for free, why do I now want to pay for it? But it probably is the kind of thing where it's only going to be a small market, and it's only going to be, you know, this isn't a life-changing business. I think you can, for, you know, an hour hangout, if you're doing $20-30, you can probably push some people that far. For others, it's got to be more like 10 to 20, which is pushing it down towards, you know, minimum wage. It gets you by, it gets you through while you're building up your other stuff.
But I don't think it's a game changer because it is one of those things where, don't make it rich enough that all those bloody transcriptionists with their software get involved and kick you out again. You've been replaced by software a couple of times. You don't want it to happen again.
No, getting through would be a start. So yeah, that's.
Yeah. So, and I'll play along with Manny throwing up another question. He says, would educating people about the benefits of timestamping? Yeah, absolutely. The other way, instead of just doing your own show, is to find one show that's popular that you timestamp for free. Well, not for free. They give you credit. You negotiate, a benefits scheme that maybe isn't cash, but you get credited every single time. Even when the timestamp goes up, it's always got buy, and it's got a link to your website selling the services of timestamping at a reasonable rate. One show, a successful show, and then you've got the stats to show what difference timestamping made. You can actually go through and actually, before the average person watched 10 minutes of a video. After timestamping, okay, of an hour, still the average wasn't the whole thing, but it went up to 30 minutes. And that's a big old jump, and that is absolutely what can be seen with some of the shows out there. Usually they are skipping through and they're just having to do it by faces. Timestamping can make it more effective. You'd also be able to kind of experiment with what was the right number of timestamps for a show, depending on how busy it was. Do more timestamps mean that people jump into more places, or is it actually less timestamps? They're more likely to visit every single one of them a little bit. So that would be a thing to play with. Posit the results of on that site that's talking about timestamping. Become a thought leader in timestamping. Be the one that's doing the tests nobody else is doing. And if you were in collaboration with somebody who's already doing quite well, maybe somebody like Stone Temple, where they've got a few hundred viewers for their show, or maybe it's somebody like Mia, who's got hundreds of viewers for their show, then everyone else can understand why they're getting the deal and not feel that they're being ripped off when they have to pay for it. They can see it's an advertising deal. It's certainly something to consider to get that going, which, like I say, is then bread and butter on the table, and then you can be working on making your jam.
Yeah.
John Moore is in the audience at the moment, so easy to hook up with. Farming after dark. Yes, I did that when I first started the farm. Big floodlights. When I came home from teaching at high school, I went out and farmed. It works. Well, as I say, John's in the audience. I don't know if John's got a spare bed for an extra farm hand, but if he has, hit him up after the show. Ask.
Yeah.
Not only that, but he might be willing to have an intern for some of his web business as well. Learning the other side of that could be fun. It's something fun for you to both have as a story to talk about as well.
Yeah, room, board, internet, and life experience is kind of all I really want these days.
So, for an immediate career, definitely timestamping is one of the things you can do. Another one is writing. Writing is so important to people these days. Everyone needs content. And while there's 1,000 copywriters out there, actually not all of them are very good. And a lot of them don't understand some of the things you'll understand. There are a lot of games sites out there, and some of them do have some very good writers. And some of them don't. Don't be afraid to put some examples of work together. But look, you're a gamer. Making money is the ultimate strategy game. And you've got to learn to play it like that. I love my job because it's so much like the strategy games I love. the whole framing of my work is in context of the fact it's very much like a strategy game. Another guy who will tell you exactly the same thing is Jason T. Weiser. He's a strategy game lover. Now, if you want some, copywriting work, I wouldn't be afraid to hit up Jason. Say that I sent you his way, and thought two strategy gamers might like to get together. It's not going to be a huge living, but it can pay the bills, and it can teach you an awful lot. It can let you hone your craft in writing, in being able to effectively sell something sometimes you don't believe in, to align yourself with a message that you need to tell, or something that there is value in, and finding the way that lets you feel at peace with it, that lets you tell this story, that does it. There is huge growth for a writer in doing that, and it's something that I mentioned years ago, is that everyone thinks they're a writer. I've met thousands of poets and people who do creative writing, and yeah, as long as it's fan fiction, they can write. They can write forever about, I don't know, Spock kissing Kirk. But the minute you say, okay, well, what I want you to wax lyrical about this week is this toothpaste. It's cinnamon flavour. And their faces just drop. And we haven't even... That one could be exciting. I mean, try it about these slippers that are specially designed for elderly people with bunions. As soon as you take the romance away, they can't write at all. The skill as a writer is being able to find the soul, the romance, the passion in anything. And that's the thing I would say work on now, because if you can get that, you have a thing of immense value. And sometimes, if you need to feel excited about the paycheck, do that too. It's amazing how exciting that can be when you've been without one for a little while. Now, Zara says about voiceovers. That's a tough gig to get into unless your voice is already recognised. Again, everyone can speak. Not everyone can speak on camera, but most of the time the voiceovers are going to actors, and it helps pay the bills. But it's certainly something you could consider. Really, most of the time there you'd be looking, if you were multilingual, that would be one of the ways I'd say to be going, doing translations. But yeah, without that, not really. It's a very, very tough gig to get voiceover work, unless somebody in the audience has connections there and is offering them. I'd say no.
Yes, if you want me to read something for you, I would be more than happy to, for just a small amount of money.
However, finding books and stories that haven't been turned into audiobooks, you could find out what it takes to do that. Are they just looking for a volunteer? Would they, would they let you do it and do it on a commission thing where, okay, I will make an audio book of your book and we'll split the profits. Hook up with some writers, and it could be that they haven't done a deal that way and they hadn't thought of doing a deal that way, and they're open to it. It never hurts to ask. And a lot of these things, this is the game you want to be playing, and this is the way you want to be phrasing it, is playing the game. You've been dropped into this exciting world, which doesn't quite make sense, which sums up most games we've ever played, right? And you've got to figure out what works, how does this system work, how can I play this game? That's it. Apply everything you've learned in gaming to life, and do you know what? You'll do really well. Okay, so those are a couple of ways to pay the bills. I'd also say, look, you've made the plunge into blogging. with your knowledge from gaming, I know you could pick up HTML, you could pick up PHP, you could pick up all of the other languages in no time at all. Rounding out those skills is never going to be a bad thing. There's an awful lot of people looking for help with websites who maybe can't afford the big agencies, which would enable you to do profit share partnerships with some people. And although you've got to then you've got to do what I say about you know, how investment capital works. You invest in 10 projects, you know 8 of them are going straight under with nothing. You know, you're going to put the time in and get nothing back. One of them will just about make your time worthwhile for what you put in, and one of them is where the profit comes from. That's the one that pays the bills. If you understand that going in, you know that a lot of work is a bit like, you know, grinding for the great equipment in a video game. It's kind of tedious, and only some of it works. You know, you've got a 10% chance on any one given project. So the thing is to get into as many projects as you can and make those odds work for you. Is there anything in particular you want to ask? Because I notice we are not short on time yet, but we're getting that way. This is the time you can throw any of those questions that kind of...
Any other questions? Yeah. Lee, you need an intern for a while?
Yeah, how many stops are you away from King's Cross? Just on the transcripts, timestamping, those kind of things as well, they're all to do with Hangouts in general. For UK Biz Hangouts, a couple of weeks ago we had a meeting and decided to list every single thing there was, everything to do with a Hangout itself. And you do Hangouts yourself, you bin both sides of the camera, as it were. Possibly maybe looking at, yes, you can do transcription or timestamping or whatever you like, but you might not necessarily actually enjoy that. So what about other stuff as well, like creating the graphics, setting up the Hangouts themselves for other people, I'm talking about, and for money as well. Blog post writing, audio production, video production afterwards, those kind of things as well. I think there's about 40 different elements to a Hangout that you can charge for. So there's a big list of stuff there, and I can send you the list over if you like.
That'd be great.
That we're doing, yeah. And maybe there'll be some stuff there you go, you know what, I could do that with my eyes shut. There'll be other stuff that you just don't like or not really particularly interested in. But then you find somebody else to outsource it to as well. To your mate on Fiverr or people per hour or wherever. But yeah, I'll send you the list over if you like. No problem at all.
That'd be cool.
And Zara's been to the office, so she knows how nice it is.
Bringing up this message by Scott. Not suggesting that David Wells personally transcribed himself, but you could serve as a HOA transcription brokerage house. So you could find some of those other brokerage, transcriptions out there, some of the ones that are doing Fiverr and people per hour, vet a few, and act as a place where they can go straight to you. You know, you build the hub for getting transcriptions done by talking intelligently about what it takes and knowing what the Hangouts are like and knowing what other video production is like for live streaming and how that works. In other words, understanding the game system that people are playing when they're doing the videos and being able to explain the rules to them and put them in touch with people who can take them to the next level, going to the trainers. Zara recommends Lee's office. That's nice.
She's been there.
The audience generally have filled the stream with ideas as we're going ahead. You've got a lot of support, a lot of people willing to, offer advice and help. And I'm sure if you can connect, that they can take this a lot further as well. Definitely, blog post writing is an easy sell right now still. I also do think that following up on the idea of game writing and game designing isn't a bad idea. Now, let me think. I know there's somebody who's been very interested in that field. Well, here's two ideas. First is a gentleman called Chris Lang, who's just produced a book recently, or rather it's a series, Plenses, which is about a kind of dystopian future where wearables have become lenses. You've got augmented reality in the world, and it's everything about that. That could make a great game setting. Ask him if he'd be willing to let you work on a game and co-own it with you, and see if you can make Plenses the tabletop game, Plenses the card game, whatever. Why not even think about how it could be turned into a computer game, create the story, create what needs to be done, and then see if a gaming house is willing to buy the rights to use it. I certainly think he'd be willing. I think he'd be very keen on it, and he has some skills to pass along on writing as well, very commercial writing. So that's one idea to follow up on. Definitely we've got a few bloggers. I'd also say that Peter Hatherley, I seem to remember, has sold one or two games in the past. And they were more like the board games. But again, there could be some experience there. I know he's only too happy to talk. So, connect, reach out. Don't be afraid. That's the whole thing of this platform, is to absolutely reach out, let people know what you're thinking, and if you see a potential connection, just reach out and ask. The worst anybody is ever going to say is no. And it's surprising how rare you'll get that. Usually they just won't reply to you.
The deafening silence is my friend, yeah.
The opposite of a +1 is nothing. Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. Hopefully we've given you some ideas. Where this show is different to the usual is that you have a week to really kind of think on this and come back with even more questions, and which ideas have resonated, which ideas you want to explore further, because the thinking time is the implementation time. Really, it's not like you've got to rewrite a huge website or restructure a business in the classic way. It's much more a case of just think on this, and next week we'll follow this up further. We have the audience sharing. Unfortunately, it's getting snipped off there, but Christopher Vogelman has put in the link to Plenses, and Manny's agreeing about Chris Lang and Lee Rickler. Oh, this guy in the comments. Well, I'm not keeping him busy enough, are we?
He is. He's a great bloke.
Yeah, it's a good book too. I was a fan.
Cool. Because I think game writing would be something that A, you would absolutely adore to do, and B, that you'd be better at it than most of the game writers out there at the moment.
So why do you have that impression that I would be better?
Because most of the game writers out there have absolutely no idea of psychology whatsoever, and their characters, therefore, are beneath two-dimensional. There's no consistency in them. And I know that you would write better characters than most of those do. It's one of the reasons I think that the game of the movie has become one of the big genres in gaming, is because it's the only time we've ever had characters that have been decently thought out, is because they were created by a writer first, instead of, as most games, just stick in a guy with big muscles. Or stick in a one with big boobs. That's even more, especially
a guy with big boobs.
Coming up.
A guy with big boobs. There we go. That'd be an interesting.
What games do you play?
I refuse to testify on the grounds I may incriminate myself.
So, Chris is pretty much summing up the advice of the show here. Game writing in between ploughing fields. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
at night.
Excellent.
So, right, let's round up. So, David, where can people hook up with you at the moment? Because I know After Dark is still off air at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm holding out until I can afford a green screen, I think, because you embarrass me with your fanciness, and it's like, if I can't even do that, then what kind of show am I gonna have? So yeah, I'm holding off on that. Grimgriz.blogspot.com is where I do my regular blogging. I'm on G+ often enough. So.
I would also, we'll probably follow up a little bit more on the professional blogging next time, because that's something that I know a lot of people are interested in, and there are ways of doing enough of it to pay some bills. You know, basically posting for others is usually slightly more profitable because they've already got the audience, they just need the content. Whereas to build up the audience from writing the content takes time, and you know, time is that most precious of all commodities. I would strongly suggest that, you know, rather than just waiting for people to reach out to you as well, follow up some of these connections. You know, don't be afraid to ping any of the people we've mentioned, whether it's Jason T. Weiser, whether it's Chris Lang, any of them, and just say, look, I was told to ping you. Most of them are not only very open and willing, but you know, half of them will probably go, well, that's interesting, and actually, you know, think about it even more. Why not? To quote one of Christine's favourites, you know, there's the lend a hand movement, and the whole thing of that is one hand up, one hand down. It's not only about reaching down and pulling up others, sometimes reaching up, because it's easy to kind of be told that you're a guru or be told that you're meaningful, but you actually aren't unless people are reaching up to you. So, you know, don't be afraid to reach up to people, because that is, after all, what justifies them being there. That's what they're there for, is to be able to pull other people up, but they won't know you need it unless you reach up to let them know. Lee, what are you up to this week?
I'm agreeing with Christopher Vogelman. You don't need a green screen to be successful. Just take a few photos and print them out on A4 sheet and stick them in some dodgy IKEA frames behind you. Dumb. This week I'm concentrating on packing up VR headsets. Some Google Cardboards are selling like hotcakes, which is nice. Other than that, working, and working.
Yeah. I think you misread that. It said twerking, and twerking. But never mind.
Not working. Yeah, no twerking.
So the audience would be interested in a twerking video.
So we're talking about twerking with men with big boobs. Yes, okay. Great show so far.
Yeah. So tune in to this week's UK Hangout, UK Biz Hangouts, where Nick Rink will be twerking.
Love to get me big boobs out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm watching that episode. I'm telling you.
Oh, so that's one way getting them in.
Yeah. Well, on that grounds, I guess Hangout sounds positively boring, but we'll be doing our best on Tuesday. That's the next time you can catch me. And later in the week also on the Code Breakers for a kind of season roundup show. So that'll be interesting, and I'll be with Grizz again there. So we got a busy week this week, mate. The day, midweek, and at the end of the week. So I'm looking forward to the next one already. Take care, everyone. Thanks a lot. Tune in next time.
Cheers.